Hello, welcome to a special edition of Political Forum for Wednesday, February. Today we welcome Sharon Fairley, Democratic candidate for Illinois Attorney General. Thank you for appearing on Political Forum.
Thanks for having me.
I'm Carolyn Day, a board member here at CAN TV. You're watching a live interactive program brought to you as a community service by CAN TV. Be sure to tell your friends that they can also watch the show online at cantv.org/hotline. We welcome your questions and comments for candidate Fairley by calling us at 312-738-1060. During the next 25 minutes, we'll try to get as many of your calls in as possible on the air. You may go to the website to learn more about candidate Fairley at fairley.com.
SharonFairley.com. Yes, that's okay.
That's
okay. No worries.
So
No worries.
welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome to have you here.
Oh, I'm delighted to be here.
So we know that the Office of Attorney General can be really tough, and so we
Yes.
want to know a little bit why you're interested in holding it.
Yeah, it's a really important office, and I believe in today's political climate, the office is more important than ever in terms of the role it plays in protecting not only the citizens of Illinois, but also being a strong part of the coalition of attorneys general across the states who actually work to protect all of the citizens of the United States. And so I want to be involved in this. I'm really concerned about the state of our political affairs here in Illinois and also nationally. I believe that we are really in unprecedented territory in terms of the almost daily attacks on our civil rights and our health and our well-being. And the Attorney General has a very important role to play in protecting us from the forces that try to divide and exploit us. And I'm really excited about the opportunity of being in that role and having a chance to make a big difference for the citizens who live in this state.
Great. So my next question, I'm sure all of our viewers would like to know a little bit more about you, your experiences, and what has prepared you for this position.
So when I look back at my life, Carolyn, I really believe that all of the personal and professional experiences I've had have helped prepare me for this really important role. So I was born in Washington, D.C. in the middle of the Jim Crow era. And I was raised by two dedicated public servants, both who worked in education. And you can't, grow up in Washington, D.C., the seat of government, and be raised in that kind of family environment and not have an appreciation for not only public service, but the importance of a proper functioning government. So that's kind of from whence I came. And then I went off to college. I went to Princeton. I was really good in math and science, and so I went to study mechanical and aerospace engineering. I got my degree, my undergraduate degree in that with high honors, which I think shows that I have the courage to take on tough problems, right, and analytical skills. I then got my MBA and from the Wharton School in Pennsylvania, and I enjoyed a business career for several years. And I was, good at what I did, but I really reached a point where I was questioning whether I was spending my time and energy in a way that was really meaningful to me personally. And having been raised by these wonderful and amazing and inspirational public servants, I decided that I wanted to take my life in a new direction. So this was also after 9/11 and the sort of big corporate implosions. And I really felt like I could do more. I was raised to believe that you go out and you get the best education possible, and then you use that education to make the world a better place. And so that's what brought me to Illinois. I came to Chicago, and I went to University of Chicago Law School, got my law degree, and then ever since then I've been working on behalf of the citizens of Illinois. So I started out my legal career in the Attorney General's office. I was an assistant attorney general, and I was so proud to have that job and that experience working on criminal appeals. But then I spent 8 years working here in Chicago as a federal prosecutor. And in that capacity, I worked on all kinds of cases, but the important thing is that the cases that I worked on are really directly relevant to the work of the Attorney General's office. So, for example, I worked on many narcotics trafficking cases, so that, of course, gives me a unique perspective on the opioid crisis. I worked on firearms trafficking cases, which gives me a perspective on the gun violence problem that we have here in the state. And then I also worked on complex fraud cases, which is really relevant to the work that the Attorney General does in the area of consumer protection. So the work that I've been doing all along has really sort of built up my professional talent, skills, and experiences in a way that will help me run the office well. And then after that, I went to work for the City of Chicago. And so my first job with the City of Chicago was to serve as the first Deputy Inspector General. And so I worked for the Office of the Inspector General. And that is the city agency that's responsible for rooting out government corruption and waste. And so in that job, I worked on all kinds of investigations of government corruption, and then also I was the chief legal officer at the agency. So I was responsible for all the legal matters. And that's really important because I've had experience overseeing groups of attorneys and investigators. And from there, I was asked to serve in a different way. So I was then asked just to be the head of the civilian agency that oversees the Chicago Police Department and investigates allegations of police misconduct and then officer-involved weapons discharge events, including officer-involved shootings. So I've spent a couple years really immersed in the land of police reform and police accountability, working with the police department on its reforms, making recommendations around policy changes. And so I have this in-depth experience now and understanding of what's going well with the department, what's going not so well. So because Attorney General Madigan has started down the path, and importantly so, of seeking court oversight of reforms by the Chicago Police Department, I will be able to hit the ground running because I'm the only candidate in the race that has this kind of direct experience working in the field of police accountability. Yeah.
Very, very impressive.
Thank you,
Thank you
Carolyn.
so much for being here this evening.
Thank you.
So we want to talk a few more issues that's
Sure,
going
yeah,
on
absolutely.
here.
I'd love to.
The Better Government Association recently released a report showing that over the last 12 years, 113 police officers involved in shootings took place in the suburban Cook County without any findings of misconduct. And as a result, you have asked for more accountability from the police. If you become Attorney General, you'll need police in order to prosecute cases. How will you work with the law enforcement agencies while still holding police accountable?
So what I think is really important to understand that police accountability is not necessarily anti-police, right? Police accountability means holding police officers accountable, but it also means giving them the resources and the skills and the training that they need to do their jobs well. So, what I've tried to do in working in this space is develop relationships with the people that I work with so that they understand that what I'm trying to do, if successful, will actually make their lives better. Mm-hmm. Because we all know when the community trust in law enforcement is restored, then people are more likely to report crimes. People are more likely to be be willing to be witnesses with regard to prosecution of crimes. And so it really enhances public safety when officers are held accountable and the community can feel confident that officers are being accountable. And so that's a really important, thing to understand that, when we talk about police accountability, it doesn't mean that it's anti-police. Yes. It actually means that it can work to benefit the officers who are out there day in and day out. They're the ones that run towards the gunshots, right? Instead of running away like I would do. So, we have to support them and give them the tools and training that they need to succeed. And accountability is part of that. When I heard that report, I was, not terribly surprised, but also concerned. And, and the reason is this: I've come to realize in the work that I've done that we need to bring the law that governs the use of force, and in particular the use of lethal force by police officers, we need to bring that in line with community and societal values. This is I believe one of the areas where the law has fallen behind what we as a community find acceptable. And it's for this reason that as part of my platform, I've suggested that we actually need to do a few things, one of which is to start working on use of force policies that are in place in the law enforcement agencies, not only here in Chicago, but throughout the state of Illinois. And then also work on the actual statute. There is a statute, a state statute in Illinois that governs the circumstances under which a police officer is permitted to use lethal force. And so we really need to relook at that and make sure that that statute reflects what we as a community find acceptable. So these are some of the things that I've discussed that we want to do. And then the other thing is we need to make sure that the law enforcement agencies and investigators that are responsible for investigating these incidents, that they actually have the skills and knowledge and expertise and proper legal oversight to conduct those investigations in a quality manner and with integrity. And so that's another thing that I would be looking at as Attorney General.
Very good, very good. So viewers, you're watching Political Forum, a community service here of CAN TV. I'm Carolyn Day, a CAN TV board member. This is a live interactive show. You may call 312-738-1060 if you have questions for our guest today, Sharon Fairley. You called out the City of Chicago Council for not adequately funding COPA, an agency you used to lead. So today it came out that another City of Chicago attorney resigned because of the city's record of failing to turn over evidence in police misconduct cases. With that said, are you confident in your ability to make the real reforms police conduct when the culture seems to be more pervasive than most people thought?
So, we have to reform what's going on here. And I believe that Lisa Madigan, the current Attorney General, has taken the important step of stepping into the void left by the Trump administration, who has walked away from negotiating reforms with the City of Chicago. And so now it's up to the Attorney General to sort of fill that role and take that task on. And I believe that through that process, we can achieve positive and lasting reform. But I think that these things are indicative of the challenges that we face here. And there's a lot of work that has to get done. And I'm excited. I've worked with many of the people involved here, and I believe that I can help with the knowledge that I've gained and the experience that I've gained, point people in the right direction. And that's one of the reasons why I think that I really am a strong candidate, because other candidates who don't have that experience won't be able to walk in the door on the day after the election and be able to roll up their sleeves and understand what's going on. And I absolutely will.
Yes. Thank you.
Sure.
Wow. We seem to have a caller, so I'm going to see if we can bring that caller in. Caller, are you there?
Yes, good evening. I have a question concerning immigrant communities. The President Trump is really coming out against, it seems like against immigration. There's a lot of rhetoric, bad rhetoric, that's pointed towards immigrant communities, undocumented workers, undocumented immigrants, and the like. I want to know what candidate Fairley's stance is and how she can help protect immigrant communities, in Illinois.
Yeah, so this is one of the important areas where the Attorney General can play a very big role in pushing back against the Trump administration's vicious attacks on the immigrant community. And this is important not only because it's the right thing to do, it's the ethical thing to do, it's the moral thing to do. It's because it's right for our economy, and it's also really important from a public safety perspective. If you have an immigrant community who is fearful of and not trustful of law enforcement, for example, then that really hinders our ability to fight crime, prevent crime, and solve crime. And also, when you think about the immigrant community, they are part of our economic fiber here.
Right.
And if we lose that portion of where our economy is going to be affected. So it's this is really important, not just because we believe in America as a place that's open and accepting of cultures, and that's what makes us great,
Yes.
as a place to live and be. And so for me as Attorney General, my goal is to make our state a welcoming environment for all citizens to be able to live a great quality of life, to have access to economic opportunity, to have educational equality, to have a safe place to live, and to have clean air and water, and a great quality of life. So that's my goal.
Great, great. Well, it seems like we have another caller. This is great. So, caller, are you there?
Yes, I am. Good evening, ladies.
Good evening.
Hello, Sharon, and hello, the other lady. You're looking beautiful this evening.
Why, thank you. You're too kind. Thank you.
I live in the 41st Ward. I've been a resident here in Chicago, close to O'Hare Airport for 29 years. And then Mrs. Madigan has got to go, Mrs. Farley. I don't know if she's been in it a little bit too long. I don't know if she's getting the wrong information. I don't know. When it comes to taking care of the city, this is a big city, Mrs. Fairley. Beautiful city, goes back a long way. All us little immigrants here and there trying to start and make a new living, businesses, so on and so forth. Then you have all the sexual assault cases going on all over the place, it seems. We need a strong attorney to stand behind us people.
Yeah, we do. This is, I really appreciate your thoughts here, and I think that, I love this city too. It's just a wonderful place to live and to spend your time, to raise a family, to have a career, all of that. And I really love being here and want to work to improve things for everybody. And of course, Chicago's part of the state of Illinois, and it's really hard for me to see we have so many people who are leaving the state and because they don't feel like they have the economic opportunity. And I think what I hear people like yourself, ma'am, talking about is how disappointed they are in our political leadership in terms of failing to solve the pressing problems that we have here in our state, that leave us kind of stuck and not able to move forward in a positive way. These really big, important challenges we face, things such as, education funding, pension reform, the environment, all of these things. And so that's why I decided to do this, is because I became concerned that the career politicians are not going to do the job, and we need somebody independent who can stand up to these political leaders who've become so entrenched in these jobs. They get into these jobs, they stay forever, they use the jobs to make themselves, to enrich themselves and to enrich their friends, and we're left, the ones that are left holding the bag. And there are candidates in this race who are just part and parcel to all of that, and I don't think that that's healthy, and I don't think that's what's going to move us forward. What I want to do is stand for, an independent voice, a voice who comes and brings a very diverse perspective to the challenges that we face, and someone who actually has shown that they have the capability to hold the powerful accountable. When I was taking over the job, overseeing the police department, I went out to the scenes of officer-involved shootings. And I'll tell you, the first time I showed up, they were kind of like, well, what are you doing here, right? And I was like, well, it's my job.
Yeah,
and so,
right, yeah.
I had to push back and establish, that, look, I'm in control of this situation. This is what I want to do. So, I've demonstrated that I can do that. I've been a fighter my whole life. So, I really want to fight for the citizens of Illinois.
Good. Very good. So in addition to the law enforcement agencies, you'd like to see ethic reforms and politicians down in Springfield. Can you do a little bit more?
Yeah.
You want to talk more about that?
Sure. Yeah, I'd love to talk about that. So, I think, this past fall, we heard a lot of disturbing information coming out of the atmosphere down in Springfield, and allegations of sexual harassment, and allegations that had gone completely uninvestigated, and there were complaints that have been filed and literally were just sitting in a box because the office of the Legislative Inspector General had been unfilled for 3 years. This is a position that's required by law to be in place. This is one of the important checks and balances that's supposed to exist for us to be able to feel confident that our political leaders are being held accountable. And the fact that this office went empty for that length of time is extremely disturbing. And so what I've said as Attorney General, I would not allow that to happen. And I have recommended a number of reforms to the statute that governs that office and the Ethics Commission, as well as a number of other ways that we can work to hold government accountable at all levels in Illinois. And so there's a lot of work to be done, and some of it should be done in coordination, for example, with the state's attorneys across the state and with law enforcement, to make sure that they have the expertise and the knowledge, but also the political will to conduct investigations related to government integrity and political corruption. And so these are things that I have experience doing, having worked at the Office of the Inspector General. And I would like to share that knowledge and expertise and make sure that there are resources throughout the state so that we as citizens can be confident that when one of our government actors does something wrong, that they are going to be held accountable.
Very good, very good. So here's another issue that's out there. The Cook County Court's Chief Judge Tim Evans issued an order to say that people shouldn't be held in jail simply because they can't afford to pay bail. What, in your opinion, was that order the best course of action to reform Illinois' bond system, in your opinion?
So this is a big challenge for many jurisdictions throughout the country. And the whole concept of bail reform and the idea that we should not have people languishing in jail just because they can't afford to pay a fine or the bail to get them out when they otherwise don't represent any threat. So in my view, we should be moving more towards a system that's based on risk. The only reason why someone should be held in jail pending trial or the disposition of a criminal case is if they are a risk of flight or non-appearance, meaning they're not going to show up to court. There's evidence to suggest that they're not going to show up if you let them out. Or if there's evidence to suggest that they are a risk to community, that they're going to hurt someone, they're going to do something. And I believe that those should be the basis for keeping someone in jail. I believe that these costs associated with court fees and fines, you can have people that have fees and then they don't pay them on time, and then the fees that there are late fees on top of that. And what this does is it just sort of exacerbates that cycle of poverty for the people who are, in a situation where they don't have the resources that, for example, you and I might have. And so this is one of the ways where we really just have to break this cycle and say we're not going to do this anymore. And then, we do have to find other ways to fund the court system. I mean, we need to make sure that we are generating that revenue somewhere, but certainly not from that system, from that approach.
Yes, thank you. Candidate Fairley, we just have a few more minutes of tonight's show, and we'd like to know your final comments or anything that you're very passionate about that you want to say that has not had an opportunity to express.
Sure, absolutely. So I appreciate the opportunity to do that. So, I'm in this race because I actually believe that I'm the most qualified candidate. I believe that I have this very unique set of personal and professional experiences that makes me qualified for the job. And then also, I'm really committed to this job. So there are people in this race that have been governor or have tried to be governor. I love being an attorney, and I feel incredibly blessed that I had the resources and the opportunity to discover my calling in this way. As a lawyer, I haven't represented big companies or worked for big companies or a big law firm, and it's because I really enjoy serving and service, and that's my commitment to the people of Illinois. I want to be the attorney that stands up when people's voices have been silenced or drowned out by the political and corporate powers that are in control. And we need someone who's independent to push back and really stand up for us. And so that's my approach, and that's why I want the job.
Very good. Definitely speaking for those who've been marginalized.
Absolutely.
So, Candidate Fairley, thank you so much for appearing on Political Forum, and we thank you, viewers, as well, for calling in tonight. Our telephone technician has been Sylvia, and Political Forum is brought to you as a community service by CAN TV. Please join us every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. on CAN TV 21 and cantv.org/hotline. And good night.
Thank you.